right, so it's Shantae and
Davius.
we are here for a quick little conversation about
Marriage counseling that we going through. We just ended a session just a few minutes ago.
so the last Tuesday of last year, which was really a couple of minutes ago, we started premarital counseling with a pastor who's a friend of our pastor. I think he grew up in Chicago and he's outside of Detroit. So we're doing virtual counseling sessions. Did you do premarital counseling the first time you got married?
I did not.
I did premarital counseling the first time I got married, and there was a curriculum with a book. So I had some context for what it might be like, but this is a very different experience. Right. Also, we're meeting with the pastor, and previously I met with a pastor and his wife for my session. So It's just different.
I mean, that's good. That's good, right? To meet with a pastor and his wife, because then you can kind of get it raw from an actual married couple, and both of them giving you like their views.
I think it has its perks, but certainly when you get two people inside a room telling a story, it also changes the time management, right? So each of them might have a different perspective on how something happened. And he has a curriculum that he's following. Like, he's wrapping up his nuggets of knowledge within the conversation, the whole session, and then asking us questions. You add one more person, it'll be cool. And he said he's going to include his wife at some point. We'll get to meet her, but wives need heads up notice. Like, you can't just throw them on camera.
My hair! My hair!
Yeah, he said that. He mimicked his wife. So if she ever see this, we snitched on him on accident. So what were your thoughts before last Tuesday?
About what?
What counseling would be like?
I mean, I've never done counseling before, so I really didn't know what to expect. I figure, when I hear counselor, a marriage counselor, I just think, okay, man, he's going to attack the guy. You feel what I'm saying? And the woman is going to always be the victim, and I'm going to be the aggressor. So, but it's interesting to see how he actually wants to know both people's opinion.
Skirt! I think that Davius has that thought because we did do counseling together once before, even though Davius hasn't done counseling on his own. And we used my employee assistance program, and we met with a counselor while we were dating.
He attacked me.
It's two individuals who wanted to make sure they wanted to get into a relationship again. And I pretty much asked him to give us insight on the top issues couples have. We've been reading a lot of books together. Miss Veronica, shout out to the Morgans, brought us a book called like 15 Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married.
And Dr. Gans been so helpful with us. Been
Dr.
like a mother
Gans
to our
gave him a book on, was it getting divorced again? No, getting married.
Things I should have known before I got married.
I feel like that's a book Veronica gave you. You said Dr. Gans gave you a book on being married a second time? Or
yeah, no things I should have known before I got married.
Okay. Well, whatever. In addition, we've been listening to books and reading articles and things like that. And I think we were just seeking knowledge, right? Like, what are the things that couples are coming to see you for? And so you could tell us so we could go back and talk about it. Yeah. And so when we had the conversation with the first counselor, he made an observation when Davius was talking about something and talking about how territorial he is.
My brothers, come on, man. Y'all know what time it is, man.
So I just think that by Davius describing himself as territorial and describing the situation the way he did, he came off really aggressive. And it could be because there's a cultural difference between the counselor and Davius. It could just be that the counselor was like, you sound like there could be some jealousy or
he used to counsel guys that's locked up in jail.
Yeah,
you feel what I'm saying?
He did have a background in that.
He's used to I guess dealing with aggression. I didn't feel like I came off as aggressive, but I guess the words that I used made him feel that I was the aggressor or I was aggressive. I was saying territorial, like, man, some guys we're territorial. Sometimes we observe a lot, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to our families or our wives. We make sure we know exactly what's going on, the people that's around. We want to make sure, like, man, we're not in the dark when it comes to things. And if it's like in the animal kingdom, when other lions come around, other male lions come around, the brother kind of, you know what I'm saying, look around and be like, okay, just make sure y'all boys.
Yeah, and I let that counselor know, like, there is no domestic violence, anything going on over here.
Everybody that know me, I'm a nice guy.
But Well, which violent man don't come off like a nice guy? Anyway, like the thing is, me and Davies had a chance to discuss it, and I pointed out that certain terminology he used has a negative connotation with it, and I think by his own admission, he made it seem as if he was jealous and territorial, and that gave that counselor a certain perception. But Minister King, especially even though the other counselor talked about God being an ordained minister and having that relationship with our pastor and similar values and views, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
I also didn't know what to expect our first session. 1, it was Zoom. 2, it was just the minister. 3, I didn't know how he was going to juggle his curriculum. But even the first session had so many nuggets of knowledge that I've had conversations with friends since then and shared my homework assignment with them, and they said it was helpful. So that's why we're recording this video, to just give a summary of our experience after 2 sessions and leave you with some thoughts that were gifted to us by our premarital counselor. What was the homework we got week 1?
Well, we was told to memorize Ephesians 4:2.
Which translation?
Okay, so it says, always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowances for each other's faults, because of your love.
So it's
She thought I wasn't going to get
the
it.
New Living Translation.
Okay.
That's the one you have to look at. Okay. But even that, right? Like you put be humble and gentle and patient. Those are like some of the top 3 challenging things at work, with your kids, with your spouse. You want me to humble myself?
I don't know why women have a problem with being humble. Guys don't have a problem with being humble.
Yes, they do.
We could be humble.
I don't even think that's a gender thing. People who are not humble struggle with being humble.
Okay.
Like there's some arrogant people out there that need to humble themselves.
Gentle
is a challenge for me.
Gentle. A brother need a person to be gentle. A woman needs a guy to be gentle too. But a kind word could turn away wrath.
I think that being patient helps me provide a terrain for me to be gentle. But when I'm like focused, ready, next thing, thinking about like B, C, D, E,
that's how she moves, guys.
I feel like
A, B. No time to smell the roses.
I feel like the gentle take too much time sometimes. But all that in that scripture. And so I think it was a great foundation. And the fact that he assigned us homework to memorize it, me and Davies was like on Marco Polo, like, what's the scripture? You know the scripture?
I ain't gonna lie, man. I think that's one of the good things about counseling. If you're willing to work with each other, you feel what I'm saying? Like to cooperate. If you're willing to cooperate, it's a fun experience. You feel what I'm saying? You enjoy it. You have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? Because then you call her, leaving her little messages. Do you remember the scripture? And we just kind of testing each other, So it could be a fun thing if you're willing to cooperate.
So for the first session on 12/28, and yes, Davies proposed on 12/25. I sent off my form that night. Was like, Minister King, we made a lifetime commitment.
I think she liked me.
I'm ready to start the session, ready to start this new life, and he had it scheduled for Tuesday. But basically, one of the things that really pulled on my coattails a little bit, I shared in counseling that yes, sometimes I get very frustrated when Davies doesn't remember something I said. And I'm like, I feel like I'm just talking and no one is listening. And why don't you remember that? Like I gave you this information and you're just ignoring it. I feel like I just don't want to talk anymore. And Minister King does a good job of pointing out not only things that can help rectify the situation, but also the behind the scenes. Think about how you are made, your genetic makeup, nature versus nurture, your environmental upbringing, being a woman and the things you value versus him being the man and the things he value, on top of your personality differences, on top of being raised in 2 different households with 2 different strategies. So he pointed out, and for those of you who feel me, who have said that before, like, I feel like you don't listen when I talk, whether it's to your kids or to your spouse, he pointed out James 1:5, basically where in the Bible it shows or says that if you need wisdom, God will give it to you and he won't rebuke you, right? So how can you be mad at your spouse or your child who's asking a question? If you ask God a question,
I forgot. Would
he say, I told you that, or That's in the New Testament. Why don't you remember? Like, it's in the Old Testament. Why don't you
But you
look
know,
back at it? He
Shantae,
wouldn't rebuke you.
you guys hear Shantae. She's like a person that really likes to talk. She's real verbal. She likes to express herself. She got a million words and she speak a million words a minute. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying. As guys, well, I wouldn't even say as guys because everybody's different. Sometimes our attention span is real low. It's real short, and sometimes not even the attention span. Sometimes it's certain things we grab. We grab highlights. You know what I'm saying? The things that she might think I feel like I need to remember all 800 million words that she's saying. But for me, I'm like, okay, I done took this, done took this, and I remember this, and I remember that. And that's what I remember. You feel what I'm saying? The rest, you're going to have to remind me. I'm not going to take all of it in. Come on now.
So from session 1, what is something you took away? Like, what do you remember about what stood out most for our first time we met with Pastor King?
Yeah, I think it's definitely when he was talking about like considering each other, like speaking gentle to each other. It's all on delivery. So because it's not it's not that what you're saying is wrong. You feel what I'm saying? Like it's on how you deliver what you're saying. So you could tell me something, you could disagree with me on something. It's all good that you disagree with me on something and that you're correcting me about something. I could accept it, I could receive it. But if you deliver it a certain way to where it makes me feel like I have to put up a guard, like you kind of coming at me a little too hard. You know what I'm saying? That's where the issue starts. That's where the conflict begins, So it's all on delivery. Give it to me, but give it to me in the right way.
Yeah. He definitely talked about ways to start seeking God for guidance on how to respond with God's wisdom that he'll bless you with, and the importance of speaking your spouse's language.
Guys, we forget things. You know what I'm saying? Everybody forget things. You know what I'm saying? I want to feel good enough, confident enough, comfortable enough to come at you and say, babe, I forgot. You feel what I'm saying? Or babe, I don't remember. Or babe, you know what I'm saying? I messed up. You know what I'm saying? Allow me to have that space of comfort to where I feel okay with opening up to you and being transparent with you. But every time if I come to you and you're so aggressive, you know what I'm saying? You shoot me down before I even got a chance,
But also he pointed out the importance of Davius understanding that most women get upset. When they get upset, it's because they feel that by not remembering the words that I'm saying, you don't value me. You're not making me feel special enough. And he also gave examples of a way like a man could respond to point out, like, I had no intentions of forgetting. I definitely value what you say. I just need to be reminded. Mm-hmm. So there's two sides of it that can really help. And then today, like literally at 7:00 today, we got to meet with the pastor again, and he definitely fact checked to make sure we remembered the scripture, and we did. But he basically talked about 3 scriptures, and I want to share those 3, saying that if you focus and meditate on these scriptures, divorce and separation won't happen. And so I'm not going to read them out. I'm going to give them to you so that you can do your own homework and look them up. But he shared the Ephesians 4:2, the New Living Translation, the Proverbs 15:28, which is a great key for marriage. And then he referred to a scripture he gave us last week, which I believe is James 1:19, about being swift to hear and slow to speak. So if you're focusing on doing those things as commanded, then you'll be able to prioritize your spouse and go to God and pray for them and intercede during your devotional time so that God can help you get the results you need.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that he was talking about tonight. He was saying the first thing he started off was with putting God first. You know what I'm saying? In all of our marriages, everybody's marriage, we should have God up here. You feel what I'm saying? And any issue I might have with my spouse, and if I feel like I can't come to her, I should go to God about it. You feel what I'm saying? And get an answer from God, seek guidance from the Lord before I address certain things with my wife, with my spouse, and her the same. You know what I'm saying? She'll go before God and make sure that her response is in a way that it don't, you know what I'm saying, cause more harm than anything else.
So definitely having to have your priorities in straight, because if not, if a person isn't putting God first, they won't have the wisdom to put their spouse second.
Mm-hmm.
They will allow their children, their friends, their job, and other things to come in between them.
Families.
But family members. But the thing that I really enjoyed is when he said, just be reminded that Jesus is your spouse's boss, right? So skip them and just go to Jesus. Go to their boss on them, right? Like your wife pissing you off. Instead of telling her she's pissing you off, you can go into a quiet place and meditate on scripture and then be honest with God who knows your heart and share the challenges you're having. And in your quiet time, be given the wisdom on how to go about the rest of your day.
Yeah.
And the same with women.
I mean, you cultivate that relationship with the Lord, man, because it's going to be so helpful in your marriage. You know, it's the foundation of the marriage. So cultivate that relationship that you have with the Lord, because he will teach you how to treat your spouse.
One thing I'm looking forward to after tonight's session, he said we're going to have a conversation about submission, right? And he gave a great example that left me with a little bit of conviction.
I don't know why women hate the word submission.
It's some men that hate it too. Don't think it applies to them. And he basically pointed out that when you're doing that thing that you cannot stand doing, you're probably walking in submission. So if you have to get to a point where you say in your head, the only reason I'm doing this is because I love Christ and I'm loving you like I love Christ, then that's probably evidence that you're operating out of submission. For example, the wife that doesn't want to wake up in the morning and cook her husband breakfast, but she's doing it because women were commanded to love their husbands that way, then that's them submitting. For me, Davius frequently, with his 22 inches, asks me.
I hate on the locks.
Because they are, at this point, a liability. That he asked me to help comb his hair. Do you see that I don't even like comb my own? He wants me to twist his hair, right? And so I've done it before, have I not?
Yes, you have.
I've washed his hair before. I've twisted his hair before.
Twice.
I even tried to soak it.
It was twice.
More than that. So anyway, I've done that. But I don't like it. I really don't like it. I don't understand. I don't even know. I'm like, cut it off. What's happening? Like, why is this becoming my responsibility? So he also, like, you say you've been doing your hair all the time before you met me. You met me in 2021. Why do you think you now gonna pass that over to me as a task?
I had to do it today.
So when he said, that thing that you hate doing the most, when you do it, you think of yourself as doing something unto God, or valuing your spouse the way you value God and doing the things that you don't want to do. I felt a little convicted, like, okay, I could have helped. I could have done more. Even though, let's just say, who washed your hair this time?
Well, you washed it.
I just didn't twist it. But okay, anyway, fast forward. When he talked about submission, I said, when does that start, Pastor? And after we laughed, I was trying to get to the point of, like, is that supposed to start as a girlfriend, a fiance, or a wife? Like, what's happening?
And what did
he
say?
Said it should have started when you were a young girl submitting to your father. And then after being a young child, a young woman starts to submit to Christ before submitting to their husband. And that puts some things in perspective. Of course, my dad passed away 2 days before my 9th birthday, and I was a daddy's girl. So I never got to a place where I was being forced to do things I didn't want to do. Anything he allowed me to do with him, whether it was cooking or going to the laundromat, I loved because I was a daddy's girl. But it just dropped a nugget in my soul that I think will also impact how I talk to my children. If I'm blessed to have a daughter, how I talk to her about doing the things her dad commands that she disliked, and what that really means, and how she's operating in a spiritual realm and practicing for the future. So I want to pass that on.
Pass it on, baby. Pass it on.
Anything else stand out to you?
Yeah, you gotta really be careful what you invest in, and everything that you sow is a seed that grows. You know, so what you invest in your kids, they gonna, you know, somebody else gonna have to deal with that later on.
What he said, God's working some things in you and working some things out of you. There's some stuff in
I
you
mean,
that
but
need to
we,
get out.
you know, and I think in every relationship, it's a lot of growing to do. You know what I'm saying? You never really know everything that you want to know. You know, it's the whole process. The whole relationship is a learning process. So, you know, even if we know a lot right now, believe me, it's still gonna be a lot more to know, to learn.
So, since we are trying to stick towards our 20-minute video maximums, we're going to stop right here. Just updating you on our 2 sessions. We got more sessions to go. Be in prayer with us. And C and D are out.
Peace.